Hello and welcome to the Help Is Here podcast, brought to you by the Beyond Compulsion Academy. Today we have a very exciting episode. I am joined by a client of ours, Joe. Welcome on the podcast, Joe. How are you doing today?
Good to be here, mate. Good.
Good. Yeah, glad to have you here. So what we'll probably talk about on this podcast is Joe's story of experiencing a porn addiction and then rewiring his brain using the Beyond Compulsion method. So Joe, do you want to start off just by sharing a little bit about yourself and your story, maybe how you got into watching porn in the first place, and go from there, really?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Cardiff, born and bred there. And to get straight into it, I would say I was addicted to pornography for about 17 years, and all started when I was 13. So, it all started like in school, as like typically most of us kind of discover that, right? And from there, I mean, it was back in the days of like Bluetooth and Nokia phones, like we were sending stuff over there, right? I wasn't too much involved in it. At that stage, I kind of knew what porn was. However, it was sort of, I knew it was taboo, right? It was taboo, but it wasn't like a moral thing. It wasn't wrong. I didn't know it like that, right? And I think the first time I properly got exposed to it was when I was that gap between year 6 and year 7, right? We were all over my house, right?
Yeah.
And I got exposed to, like, I would say, like hardcore pornography for the first time. It's very innocent, right? Like sort of, my friends using the computer and we were watching whatever it was. I remember the feelings because that first time was like the first time that I noticed it really hit. It was, as the famous saying goes, your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. Yeah. But at the same time, you have a feeling of kind of disgust at the same time. But then as thing goes on, as we all know, curiosity takes a lead role in your teenage years after that, and it all takes off from there.
Yeah. And then when did you start trying to stop watching it?
Yeah, so I remember hearing about the NoFap Reddit of my one of my friends, and this was in third year of uni, right? So I've been addicted to like a lot of things throughout my life. Weed and chocolate has been like an intermittent one. There's other ones that I'll probably mention another time, but this was the first time I sort of was hearing about, if you quit pornography, like there's so many benefits, there's superpowers. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
And from that point, it was sort of like, okay, that makes sense. If I quit porn, it would be something very beneficial to my life. And I then started the arc of quitting.
Yeah.
And I think from that point, it really, really got hard, as in life as a whole. And I wasn't prepared for it, but this, there are reasons for it, as I know now, from the education that I got with you and Mary. But
Yeah.
That.
So before you discovered NoFap at university, had you sort of been aware of like the consequences of watching porn?
No. I feel like ignorance was bliss before that. So it was kind of crazy because, and we've all been there, everyone on the NoFap journey. Once you try to stop, stopping becomes very hard. And it's really strange how it works. I mean, now I understand why it doesn't work as you thought. But it takes you down a rabbit hole of like sort of trying to learn new skills to quit, self-improvement, etc., etc. And like it was sort of a time after that when I was like, what if I just went back and not learn NoFap? So the cycle began then.
I remember when we started working together and we were in the training phases, and you said to me, it's a little bit like we're just unlearning the NoFap stuff.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to me a bit about what you were doing when you were sort of on that NoFap mission trying to stop watching porn? What sort of things were you trying to do to stop?
Yeah, so as we all say everything under the sun, really. Trying to quit this is so difficult when you're on the NoFap way of doing things. So, for example, one of the things would be avoiding triggers, right? So you can avoid it by like locking a phone or pulling out your internet cable, hiding your internet cable. When you feel an urge, you go for a run around the block, putting blockers on your devices, right? More filters upon filters, all this stuff that we've all tried, right? That was kind of one strategy about it. The other one was sort of, okay, if I read more, maybe I need to understand like myself a bit further in terms of where this all comes from. That kind of goes into the therapy route. Although I didn't do therapy, it was sort of trying to understand more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
And so that was the stuff that I've tried on myself.
Yeah.
Then it comes to the paid methods, and I guess we can get into that. But that was the stuff that's the stuff I was trying before all that.
Before we get into the paid methods that you tried then, how did you feel trying to do the sort of self-improvement stuff and then inevitably relapsing after maybe, running around the block or whatever it was?
Yeah, it was crazy because when you're trying to quit and you're given advice, especially from places like NoFap or a YouTube video or any of these sort of mentors, right? They'll say, okay, they'll give you these tips, right? And you'll then see them to go on, or they'll talk about streaks, for example, right? They'll say on 90 days or 120 days, I was free for a whole year. And it's sort of frustrating because you feel that you're doing the right things, as in, let's say you're exercising, you're eating healthy, you're socializing, for example. That was another one. Make sure you're in a social environment. Stay away from that. And you're trying all these things, and you can't get past like 7 days. And we're always in that counting phase, and we're living like no-fap streak to no-fap streak. And it's a real kind of cycle of, okay, I'm doing well in terms of staying away from porn for a little bit, but when you relapse, it's a cycle of destruction.
Yeah.
And we can get onto all the mental stuff that happens then, but it's hard as well, because especially when you come to talking to other people about this, because as we've all seen, someone will say, okay, I've stayed a year away from porn, I've done 90 days of NoFap. And for me, there was a big comparison fatigue that I had, right? I was comparing myself to others, thinking there must be something wrong with me because I can't get past 7 days. And that's the cycle I was in. Yeah.
That's interesting you say that, because with the no-fap streak mentality, you're not really comparing how free you actually feel or how empowered you feel. You're like comparing this number, which isn't really, as you would know now, it's like a really bad measure of success, right?
So bad.
So you're comparing, like a number with yourself, and then going, okay, well, if this person's trying all these things, like the self-improvement, and they're always learning, and, maybe they're going to the gym more, then you're like, well, if I'm trying to do all those things as well, and I am doing them, but then I keep on relapsing, well, what the hell, like, what's wrong with me? Like, and then the questions become, well, is there something wrong with my sexual desires? And you start questioning yourself, and so much shame around it.
Yeah.
So it can be really, really hard. Like, I resonate so much, and that's probably how we ended up like working together, is just sort of going down a very, very similar sort of path in our own lives, and then sort of connecting eventually, which was great.
Shame's a big one. And I think we all feel it. A lot of us trying to quit porn especially have this, although don't get me wrong, like people quitting food, people quitting other things, they all feel shame. It's sort of part of the same family, although we're in different things, different symptoms perhaps, but we're all in the same sort of family. But yeah, like when you were telling your story, when I first sort of came across you, I was like, this guy knows. This guy knows the pain. And so, that's what really compelled me, I feel, to just join you and Mary. Yeah.
Before you joined us, you were in a few different paid programs.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you want to talk about those, but do you want to kind of just share maybe why they didn't work out for you?
Yeah. So like I'd say I would have spent nearly $10,000 in total prior to this, right?
Yeah.
In trying to quit pornography through paid programs, right? The first paid program I joined was it was a famous one, and it lasted for a year at the time. So it was during COVID, and the guy was really good to me because it was meant to be like a program that lasted, I think, 90 or 180 days, either one. But he extended the thing for a whole year, and I really needed it, to be honest. Like, just being locked in, and there was a lot of good things which could be said about it. I think there are some principles which were in that program which are in this program as well. But I think, obviously, looking back, it was just a very complex method of overcoming stuff. And I think that's where it began to sort of fail for me because, you know, when you're trying to it was like this program where there was lots of modules that you had to go through, and it talked about stuff like self-development. There was a lot of self-improvement in it, and you had to follow like these routines, and it was kind of geared more towards the uncovering your child trauma sort of route. And I said a lot of things here which might confuse you because it confused me. Right? And it was not clear where the progress was made in that sense. I think in the end of the day, like, there was weekly calls and you got to meet other guys and you felt good that you were not alone in this struggle. But ultimately it was just so much analysis paralysis over it. And it just didn't work out for me, that one. And it was a big hit because obviously then it was sort of like I spent that much money and I failed this one, and so there must be something wrong with me, right?
Yeah. And with that thought now, because I think that is like a common thought that people have, is like along the lines of, what's wrong with me? Like, honestly, when I was in the porn addiction, I so thought there was something wrong with my sexual desires. I didn't realise about the sort of neuroscience of actually just having addicted neural pathways. With your education now, like having done the Beyond Compulsion methods, what's your take on that question? Like, is there something wrong with me?
Absolutely not. And for anyone obviously watching now, I think perhaps you've come across this and like you've kind of just relapsed or something. Just really take hope in this, because a lot of people think there's just something wrong with them inherently and that they're flawed as like a human being. And I was in that mentality for such a long time, and obviously when I met you and Mary, that was kind of all unraveled. No, there's nothing wrong with you as a person or a human being. It's just because you've gone through something in your life, you've started using pornography for whatever reason that is, and because of the repeated use, you began to develop addicted neural pathways and developed from what we call addicted part of the mind, that is. And this is the thing that's really sort of the powerhouse of why we can't stop. And it's dealing with that, which is a very complex thing. And it's great to sort of know about it now. But it was confusing back then. But yeah,
absolutely. And then you can see now that question is what we'd call like an unanswerable question. And it's so obvious to us now once we've had the training that question alone is coming from the addicted part of the mind to keep people stuck. So you can just completely disengage from it and go to the script if that question comes up, of course. So before we get on to maybe talking about what you learned through the Beyond Compulsion method in more detail, you want to just share like how was it for you maybe before you joined? So you've tried the NoFap, that's not worked. You've done these paid programs which cost a lot of money. They didn't really work overall. Maybe you learned a few things, but you were still relapsing. What sort of position were you in, like, just before reaching out to me?
Very frustrated because, and it's sort of frustrating in the sense that your life, like my life, had been progressing in certain areas over the years, right? So I'm thinking, right, there's obviously stuff going good in my life. I just feel like I just don't deserve anything good. And that's a thought of self-replication, which I learned comes from the addicted neural pathways. And it's like that for a reason, right? But I was feeling like that for a long time. So, I'm in a career which I enjoy. I'm building things, like I do work out, I go gym. I try to learn as much as possible. Like I'd say I'm a serial high-ticket course buyer, right? And part of that is because I have that intrigue to grow and learn. Part of it is kind of because I'm thinking, okay, if I do this and I commit to this, maybe I'll be too busy to watch porn, kind of thing. But yeah, in general, it was sort of pretty exhausting. It's so exhausting to try and handle the mental conflict of wanting to watch porn as we do, because otherwise we wouldn't do it, against, okay, I need to stop, so I don't want to watch porn, kind of thing. And that's constant mental conflict, constantly second guessing yourself, not trusting in your own thinking. And that's sort of another thing that can be talked about. I want to, just before I came on boarded to you, I was at a point where it was a good part of my life, because I'd just come out of the second paid program, and I was in the middle of my first software client ever. So it was amazing, like doing this stuff and working and being paid and building something awesome, right? And I thought that would be something that would fix things, right? Because okay, I'm loving it. I'm doing the purpose of building something for somebody. Something I've always wanted to do, just go on my own path on that way. And I'm still freaking relapsing. I'm still in this addiction. And I just got fed up, honestly. Yeah.
And there's a couple of things to go into there, because I'd love to cover the constant conflict a little bit more. But before we do that, just on what you were saying there, I think there is this misconception amongst some people that you need to like go and find your purpose or have a more fulfilling life to overcome this problem. Do you want to share with your education now why that isn't actually true?
Yeah, and I've heard that as well. I think you mentioned it before, that you actually heard it from someone who said that. Like, normally, I think they were saying that I find that people who are addicted to pornography, they lack purpose, or they lack a meaning.
Yeah, it's like Dr. Healthy Gamer guy on YouTube. He's got like millions
Not
of
trying to
subs.
expose or anything, but I came across that.
So with what you know now, do you want to explain like why finding your purpose, living a fulfilled life, that isn't actually going to like get you out of a porn addiction?
Yeah, sure. I think, yes. So essentially what happens is, it doesn't matter like what you're sort of doing, you could be living your purpose, quote unquote, and you could be doing all the right things. You could be eating healthy. You could be like part of your community. You're part of your church, part of your mosque, part of like something good, right? You could be looking after your family. You could be a great dad, great mother, anything, any of these things. The thing is that if you have addicted neural pathways, and this could be built when you were in childhood, right? Typically, like, you hear people that will say, okay, you've got some trauma to resolve, you should see a therapist, right? And so, yes, doing therapy, 100%, it's useful. And it could well be the case that you developed an addiction to whatever it is, in this case, pornography, because of trying to cope with a childhood trauma and dealing with the strong emotions of that, right? However, these then become two separate things, because yes, you have the trauma and you could solve that, but you've still got the addicted neural pathways, which is going to invoke what we call compulsive desire whenever it can, because that's how that brain circuitry has been developed. It's not like your fault for not knowing this, right? It's sort of it's not common knowledge apparently. But the addicted part of the mind, dealing with the addicted neural pathways, is separate from trying to resolve any trauma or any past things, or as we bring it back to the purpose, doing your purpose, striving in that area. Separate thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And it took me so many years to discover that, and it was only through, the Beyond Compulsion method, me meeting Mary, that I realised to actually separate those two things. Because the problem is, like, if you don't separate those things, you're going to be on this like treadmill of always learning, always trying to sort of solve the trauma. And
man, I was on that.
yeah, exactly. And that's maybe why, that previous program that you did, it may have been useful in other ways, but it's not going to actually help you deal with the addictive neural pathways and actually stop relapsing.
Yeah.
And then going back to like the constant conflict that you were talking about, how you are going to want to watch porn, but you're also going to simultaneously want to stop watching porn. Do you want to just share a little bit about, the wanting, the desire? It does go back to the addictive neural pathways, but maybe just your experience of learning about Fact 1, really, about how getting connected to that neural pathway of compulsive desire starts to change things.
Yeah.
And also, what was life like before you were actually getting connected to that neural pathway?
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with Fact 1, right? So as everyone in NoFap will discover, they will know that, or they will have maybe a million reasons why they should not fap right now.
Yeah.
They should not watch porn. A million reasons why they shouldn't engage in their addiction, right? Intuitive, right? It just makes sense. However, what commonly happens is and I was this guy, right? I would have these reasons, right? And I would say to myself, I cannot watch porn because X, Y, Z. I can't watch porn because I am going to a meeting soon. I can't watch porn because I'm on a NoFap streak.
Yeah.
I can't watch porn because I'm in this new program and I can't procrastinate on it, right? The thing is, the reality is, if I didn't want to watch porn, I wouldn't watch it. And it is a bit confusing to sort of say this because I was in that mindset of not understanding that, but it's about understanding that yes, you do want to watch it. Of course you want to watch it because you're in an addictive cycle. You have addicted neural pathways to pornography. So of course you want to watch it. But I feel that a lot of people, when they sort of come to admit that, there's a lot of shame attached to it.
Yeah.
And it comes back to the thing of there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
It's just the addictive neural pathway. Yeah. And that's what I came to realize, thankfully.
Yeah. Do you think the way in which we separate out the rational part of the mind from the addictive part of the mind can sort of help you deal with those feelings of shame as well? Because, we just get into Fact 1, you want to engage and there's nothing wrong with you, it's just, addictive neural pathways. And we just see that completely as the addictive part of the mind, which I think enables people to get to this position that you're at, where you've been on the straight line, for months, and you can come and talk about all this stuff and it feels very, very comfortable overall, because it's you're probably going to have nerves because it's your first time ever talking about this on a camera with a podcast mic in front of you, which is a big thing. Yeah. But you can see it as this is okay because I've got this part of my mind and I've got this part of my mind. So you can sort of actually overcome those feelings of shame quite a lot in this way.
100%. And I think before working with you guys, I think it would be kind of this thing of feeling a lot of shame of kind of admitting all this stuff, right? And going on record with it. But it's funny how, like we were saying, the rational part of the mind, I am where I'm at with the program now, in a very good place, not in that cycle. And I can come out and just be at peace with it. Yeah. And, of course, I mean, look, this stuff has got out of hand, pornography, addiction is really making people take a toll on everything. And it's really, what's the word to say it? It's really sort of destroying a lot of things. Yeah. I'll come on and say it.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also, on that point of, addiction destroying a lot of things, what would you say you've learned about what the problem actually is? Because I'd imagine before you joined us, you probably thought, the problem's porn, sexual desire, stuff like that. Yeah. Whereas I'm guessing that's kind of changed a bit as you've worked with us for quite a while now.
Yeah, 100%. Because I used to think, right, it was this thing of high dopamine, low dopamine, and energy, and
some of the semen attention kind of shit.
not having superpowers, all that stuff like that. I was
superpowers.
You're in your natural state, You are like super confident and everything like that. I mean, this is the lines I used to think on. But yes, so for me, having this education, understanding all this stuff on an accurate level, really paying attention to what's going on, especially with the concept of addicted neural pathways and what we've nicknamed addicted part of the mind, how that is actually responsible for a lot of things which keeps us in it, right? So a common thing for me and among other people, and you see it on forums, you see it on the NoFap forums, and it happens to me, when the urges come up, is stuff like deprecation thinking. We'll say to ourselves that, we're not good enough. And for example, when I was in the throes of the cycle of addiction, I would say, I just don't deserve good things in life. And I don't, I can't have this because I haven't done good enough in this area of my life. And to answer your initial question, it's this level of thinking, which I really thinking is causing a lot of problems in guys and women, because there are like tons of women with this problem as well. There's misconception, there's not, there is. And that I feel is, and I know you've talked about this, just taking toll on people's mental health.
100%.
And they just don't have the answer because they just don't have the tools to deal with it. They're zigging while they should be zagging.
Yeah. And talking about the straight line then, so it's been a little while since you've been on this straight line. We had our Liberation Day call and you've been on that straight line ever since. Do you want to just share how that is, actually, and what even is like the straight line actually, first of all, and what is this whole concept, because within our program we talk about the straight line and we talk about circle people and the zigzags and all of this sort of stuff. Do you want to start off by just kind of sharing that concept to anyone who's maybe new to it, and then talking about your experience being on the straight line since?
Do you know what the crazy thing is? I was about to talk about days. I was about to I've done over
really?
X days of stuff. But to clarify, it's been well over a month, right, since I've been engaging in pornography. And the straight line, as we call it, is this living from moment to moment, dealing with the urges come up, dealing with the inevitable urges that come up in the moment in the correct way. Not by doing replacement behaviours, not by, going for a run, locking your phone, using blockers, dealing with it in the right way, and rewiring those neural pathways that were addicted, and doing that over and over and over and over again, and building up that self-trust in yourself, connecting the rational mind, which is used as part of that process, to the child self, and being able to stop that conflict of, I want to watch it, I don't want to watch it, and also dealing with the junky thoughts that we all normally have. Junky thoughts meaning, oh damn, I really want to watch that scene right now. I really would love to, that video was so good, there must be 10 others like it, right? Which I got to see them. Stuff like that, which is just common with all of us, and we all share those kind of thoughts. Another junky thought, as I said, is the self-deprecation thing, knowing that's a junky thought, and dealing with that in the moment and processing it in the right way. And it's a simple method, which is what you need as an addict, right? Nothing to sort of piece together, no riddles to solve, just straightforward method.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is as well, in terms of actually getting to that position where you have genuine peace of mind and you feel free from the compulsive desire, it's so essential to get into the neural pathway of the wanting and deal with that wanting directly. Otherwise it's just going to persist, and so no matter how much you try and run away from it, it's always going to come back eventually. So you could even go on a no-frap streak and you're just going to still have that desire and it's just going to feel uncomfortable. So it's not really the goal anyway.
Yeah, guys, honestly, it's honestly okay to feel this way, as in it's a very common problem that we beat ourselves up about wanting. And I know this is the third time saying it, but there is nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just the addictive neural pathway, and that's temporary.
Yeah.
Because that's, as we know, if you want to get technical with it, through neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
That's the thing going on.
Yeah.
But these addictive neural pathways, they could be changed.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you say, it's not actually been like years and years since you stopped this behaviour, and it's the same for me. It's probably been just over a year for me. It's not like it's been like decades.
Yeah.
But the transformation can happen at a very quick rate when you switch everything into actually proactively attacking and changing those very specific neural pathways. Because, if we like clipped into this podcast or YouTube video, like your first session with me, that's recorded inside our program, like the transformation would just be insane. Like it would be like talking to two different people, which is kind of funny. Our mission here in the Beyond Compulsion Academy is to get you to a position where you're able to stop this correctly and stay stopped for good. But I'm guessing at this point that sounds like almost a bit too extreme or magical. But how do you kind of feel about that? Do you see that as a possible reality for yourself?
No, 100%. So when it comes, if we're just like talking about streaks here, I think the furthest I've ever got was 23 days, and that was, I think, maybe back when I was one of my last years of uni, maybe 2017, 2018. So it's quite a time ago. But that's like my memory of like, yes, I got a streak then. But yeah, I think the last longest one also might have been just like 2 weeks, like maybe 15 days, and that maybe 2 years ago. That's what I can remember. And let's say even if we were to like, do the practice, the stuff that we're going to do as me as a beginner in this course, learning all the stuff, and I was to get to like 30 days, that would be mind blowing. Like my life would change. Like, that would be a massive morale booster, no doubt about it.
It really is sort of, again, dealing with those urges in the moment, and you'll be okay doing it. Like knowing you'll be okay doing it. It's a robust system, and also, and this is something that was huge for me when using this method. It's something where you don't have to feel like you're on like a week of abstinence, or like you've abstained for 3-4 a month, and it's sort of like that pattern of that I used to fall into, which is like I don't deserve to feel good because I'm not on a month, or I'm not on 90 days, right? You can like feel good right away, like right now, as soon as that Liberation Day call happens, which is a thing in the program, right? You can feel good right away, and that, guys, honestly, is gold. Yeah,
absolutely. And if you do the alternative, which is thinking that you're going to get to a certain amount of days and then you're going to be happy, really you're just stuck in a cycle of still being in an addiction. We'd call that managing, controlling an addiction.
I mean, this was something from the very first paid one I did, but he made a good point, and it was that as soon as you start putting a date on your recovery, like of your completion of the recovery, things start getting a bit sort of hairy in terms of the way you're wording things and the mentality that you're approaching it, which makes sense because it's just all about the present moment.
Exactly. And that's where the script comes in. Is the whole script's designed to get you back into the present moment of what you're choosing and why right now at this moment. It's not about some time in the future. And you're right, from that Liberation Day call onwards, once you've had the training, you have your Liberation Day call, then it's okay, it's go time. I'm now on the straight line.
Time.
Exactly. And that straight line stays the same, really. I mean, you're going to have probably more compulsive desires at first, but it's the same straight line that I'm on right now.
Exactly.
It makes no difference. And if I stay on the straight line for 20 years, it's going to be the same straight line.
Right. Yeah. And that's really good to hear, because knowing that the process is just exactly the same. And it's not like you've done more reps of the urge processing, if we want to call it that, so you're more experienced than that. But in terms of like one person being more special than the other or something like that, like that's what I used to think. I mean, this guy who did 365 days of NoFap, and he's posting about it on the NoFap forum. He must be like something special, man. He must be putting his cape on right now because he's got superpowers. it's nothing, no different.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's kind of why my mission is just to do more and more sort of conversations and podcasts like this, just to really get across to people, like, there's nothing that unique about having these addictive neural pathways. Like, I've heard from about 80 or maybe 100 or whatever different clients that junkie thoughts and unanswerable questions. And, you know, in the program, we have like the Miro boards with like all the sticky notes. And it's like, they're all basically the same. It's like all the sort of thought patterns I've had in the past are going to be very similar to the thought patterns you've had in the past. And, you know, they all kind of come under the same umbrella. A lot of it is going to be self-deprecation or future thinking or past thinking.
That was huge for me.
Yeah.
That was huge for me because knowing guys, I mean, we've had Gavin on before, right? And he said so many things which was sort of like, damn, yeah, that hits freaking home, because that was exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I went through. And it's good to be in that environment. I'm not a stranger to it because, you know, I was in 2 other programs before where that was involved. But with this one, it's different because we're actually intentional about what we're targeting and what we're dealing with. And those sort of variables really are, for technical people listening to this, I think they want stuff really broken down for them into like the variables and the nuts and bolts of things, the factors, right?
Yeah.
I feel that this thing with you and Mary really hits home on that one. Yeah. So I think that's why it was a good fit for me anyway.
Yeah. I guess it kind of lends itself to people who like a concise, rational, logical approach where it's just come in, do this, then do this, then do this.
Yeah.
You know, we even, and this is what's probably a little bit different to other programs, but like during the training phases when we were working together, I said to you very specifically, like, you are not prepared at this point to stop this behaviour. Like, as almost like instructing you to be like, okay, just use these facts for now, but you're going to be continuing to engage.
Yeah.
And you actually went ahead and were choosing to engage up until the Liberation Day call.
Right.
Do you want to share kind of like how that experience was?
Yeah, because it was like, this guy is giving me permission to sort of act out in my addiction. Yeah. I was thinking, that's super counterintuitive. Yeah. But it's the counterintuitives that sometimes work the best, because I was in the mind frame of, okay, I've joined the program and paid like the other 2 times of you know, once I hit the ground running with the program, I don't want to be engaging because I'm just gonna feel, and we all feel this way, like after we relapse we feel like garbage and like we're feeling just rubbish about ourselves, right? And so I didn't really want to feel that, but the way that you were breaking down the actual rationale behind the thought pattern that was actually working against me, it actually took me to engage, to actually understand it. Because after that, remember we talked about earlier how, you know, before NoFap, it was blissful ignorance. Not that it was like, not that I'm like 100% like that right now, but it was more of that feeling of just being able to not have conflict, but engage, right? And it's going back to that, and then working from that base to become compulsion free. Yeah.
And you said there, you know, I don't want to be engaging. Like that was the very, very first thought that you probably had when you joined the program.
Exactly.
But then it's like we've completely flipped that and be like, well, actually, you don't want the consequences of engaging, but you are going to want to engage because you have these addictive neural pathways right now, and these neural pathways can be changed. And then, in terms of the sort of NoFap side of things, it's like you learn the NoFap at university, and then from there, it's like you develop these neural pathways that get you into these feelings of deprivation.
Yes.
And then you've got that constant conflict. Because then it's like, I want to do this thing, but oh shit, I can't do it, I want to stop it. And
and that's the serious thing. Like the feelings of deprivation can just put you in such a crap place. But a lot of unlearning of the NoFap stuff. And that's a good thing. As like, if whoever takes the program and stuff, and people in there are realizing that, and like there's real transformations happening. I can see it. For me, it was about like trusting the process as well. Like trust your coach, like trust that they know what's going on here. And you've gone through the program with Mary, and Mary's also like been in the game for like over 3 decades or something, right?
Yeah.
And so you're in good hands.
Yeah.
And like trusting that, I was like, okay, we need to give this a shot, and it was the right shot.
Yeah. And I'm glad you took a chance on us. And
Yeah.
how would you say it's like impacted your life now then, like in terms of just day to day, maybe like work, relationships, what sort of stuff are you getting up to now, and how are things sort of falling into place now you're on the straight line?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about like the kind of manifestation of the benefits and stuff. Obviously, the confidence, as in personal confidence, and just trusting in my own thinking has really sort of taken its place now. I feel like I'm the driver and thinking for myself, and I can, take initiative on my own self, as opposed to, sure, when I'm buying other programs and stuff, you want to have the knowledge, but I think before what was happening was I was letting the coach do the thinking for me, whereas now I've got the knowledge, but I'm the driver of the thinking. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Another one which I bang on about now is so I've been on a cut since starting the program. 2 days ago I reached the 10 kilo mark, so I've dropped 10 kilos. Wow. And I've managed to like keep the strength more or less there.
Nice.
And work is another one. So in the job, so I work in basically a software house, and everyone there is blessed. I love the team and everything. Beforehand, it was getting along with the job and stuff, but I wasn't turning up to work with that clarity, right? That clarity and that wanting to sort of really immerse myself in there.
Yeah.
Now, like these past 2 months, really thriving. I'm ahead on work, and people are really noticing, and they're really liking it, and the focus is really there, and I'm pushing stuff all the way to the front of the what do you call Kanban board? In software terms.
I know about that from my tech experience. Yeah.
And so that's really good because the business are pleased, and the customers also like, okay, they're satisfied with it, and that just really turned everything around for me, because it's sort of now, and this comes on to the non-physical part, just the end of the constant conflict, the end of second guessing myself, and really just and I think Gavin actually on his podcast said it the best way, but I would sum it up as sort of a second chance at really having another go at like life and stuff, right?
Second chance at life. Yeah, freaking love that, man. It's so good to hear. Yeah. And I feel the same from this program too. Like, that's the cool thing, is I'm just like in the same boat as you and Gavin, because it's like I just came across Mary and got very lucky that I found these 5 facts and this education, and I just took it and did the work, and so have you. And on that point as well, I do think it's worth pointing out, like, not everyone who joins the program is going to probably dive in and take the content and like consume everything there really, and just really go for it. But you have obviously done that, which is great. So big, respect to you for doing the work. Do you want to kind of just share for anyone who is in the program listening to this, because I'm sure there will be quite a lot of people within the program who listen to this, or maybe previous clients, like, how have you gone about getting the absolute most out of this method and the resources and the application of it? Like, what sort of tips or advice would you have to anyone else who's got this method? Yeah.
So, like, I think yourself and Mary have done a good job of, banging on about this is the biggest problem in your life right now. Being in an addiction is a full-time job, as in it's always on your mind, it's constantly there, and it's really going to just creep up in everything. And I mean, I can speak for myself, it freaking does. Like, it really affects everything. It spills over into everything. And just acknowledging that it's your number one priority to solve right now. And so, if you've just joined the program, you're in the program, do make it your conscious first priority. Obviously, don't quit your job and like this stuff, but like you keep it your number one project. So that's the mentality I took it as, because per your instruction, which is the right way, obviously, when it comes to the content, keep on re-watching it. You cannot, as Mary says as well, you cannot watch it enough. Because you need to just keep on re-watching, learning the concepts over and over again, because yes, reading the script, as we'll get onto in a minute, is the core of it.
Yeah.
But understanding all the education around it is where I really got the confidence from, really where I got the foundations to feel really strong when reading the script from. So constantly refreshing it, even if it's like an episode a night of either the modules or the coaching, recording calls, any of them, just watch one a night. And as you said, as Mary says, as Gavin says, as Mike says, everyone says, habitually read the script and be present when reading the script. Stay present when reading it, because sometimes, I do audio.
Yeah.
And what can happen is I'll have it on the background where I'm in my in-ears. I'll be listening to it, but I'm not kind of paying attention, right? Because I'm like watching something or focus on something else while I listen to it. Listen to it in the moment, focus on the script. And when the urge comes, read it over and over. Make the choice over and over again. Remember, because it's not deprivation here, we are thinking through the choice. That's all the script's there for.
Yeah.
And think through the choice over and over and over again. And the urge goes eventually.
Yeah.
Right? And you've thought it through, and you've done the work of rewiring. And look forward, last thing, and look forward to the intense urges. Have them something to look forward to. They say really scary, and you want to damn, I want to engage right now, right?
Yeah.
But the intense urges are the biggest moments of growth. So enthusiastically look forward to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, each one is an opportunity to just really rewire those neural pathways. Yeah, and they are uncomfortable in the moment, but you've got everything you need to use the script and succeed in changing the brain in the right way.
Yeah, it's crazy important. And it's safe to say I'm kind of obsessed with all this stuff now.
Yeah.
But it's so important, and in the end of the day, if this knowledge gets out there a bit more, I'm just hoping that more families are going to be repaired, more marriages are going to be saved, more guys can get up off their feet and just really attack life how they want to attack it, because it really is, I said earlier, something that's out of hand, and we've got something really important to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a great place to leave it, really.
Yeah.
Any final words though on where you want to sort of go with your life and with this education next?
Yeah. So the first thing I actually want to say as well is, guys, if you're doing NoFap right now, the first thing I want to say is that I was in that period of trying to look for answers by myself for a long time. The thing is, it's so difficult to do it on your own. And really, the most sensible option, even if it means investing in yourself, is to make the important decision to not battle it alone, and have help and get help, and don't go through this like a lone wolf, because I don't want to say it's impossible. My attitude is nothing's impossible now.
Yeah.
Now I've learned this, but it's just going to be very difficult, and it is difficult. You know how hard it is. And when it comes to picking a coach in that case, you'll notice that you'll get on these calls, and when you're on these calls, you'll be with the coach themselves or a sales representative of that course of recovery course. And what you want to do is make sure that you have all the time you need to ask all the questions you need to ask, even if it takes you 2 hours on the phone with this rep or this coach, to get all the answers you need to make a solid choice on picking the program that's right for you. If you're not satisfied with it, you just don't buy it. And make sure that you ascertain that they have a comprehensive understanding of the problem of addiction, or pornography addiction in particular, and get that help. Obviously, I would recommend Tom and Mary, but make your own decision. And guys, get help. Definitely get help with it. What was the other question?
No, I think that's such a good point. I wish when I was 16, I had have listened to a podcast like this, and I just was like, you know what, I'm going to make this my number one priority,
Yeah.
and I'm going to deal with it. And you made a really good point earlier when you were talking about how you've consumed the content and how you've approached learning this method of like, just making it your number one priority. Because what can happen is people can feel like, I'll just put this off. I've got a really busy work schedule. I've got a family, I've got to do this for the wife. I've got to, I don't know, put the washing on. I've got to, I've got all these things. But it's like, if you actually put overcoming this problem at the absolute top of your mind in terms of this is my number one priority right now, all those other areas of your life are going to become so much easier.
Yeah.
And, from talking to you today again, it just reinforces that, from how work's now easier, relationships are better. It's like pretty much every area of your life is going to be positively impacted by putting the rational mind in charge, just moment by moment. Everything transforms.
Yeah, it's really incredible how just clearing up the clutter in your mind could just help so much, because I think this is the raid boss of clutter, this thing. And it's just imperative, again, like we said, just living with addiction's a full-time job, so much conflict, and it's just like, now I can say there's just a weight off my shoulders. Something that was weighing me down for years and years. I was thinking in negative patterns for years. But the negative thinking comes from the addicted neuropathways himself. It's not me necessarily that's thinking negatively. It's actually the addiction wanting you to keep you in that position because it knows your thought patterns. And I don't know if too much of the science of all this, but it's the addicted neuropathways is the main goal here to fix. Right?
That's the problem. And you're right. Like, if you are gonna get that external help, you want to be going to someone who understands the problem. Like, understanding the problem is like almost like 99% of this whole thing, and that's why like me and you went down the wrong route for so many years, because we were misdiagnosing the problem. We probably thought it was to do with like sexual desires, or we thought it's to do with porn or something like that, but. And the no-fap advice is all around that kind of stuff. So they kind of misdiagnose the problem. But it's like when you just know that the problem is actually you've got a part of your mind, the addictive part of your mind, just saying bullshit like 24/7, trying to get you to engage, and then you just deal with that.
And it constantly will want you to engage, because that's its number one goal. As everyone probably feels, like they know that it's so hard to quit, and that's why it's constantly, those addictive neural pathways are constantly trying to get you engaged. Doesn't matter about your trauma, doesn't matter what purpose you have, or your job, or whether you got an awesome morning routine. It doesn't matter, right? What were you saying? You said before as well something really good. It was about making sure that solving the addiction first before stuff like therapy. What was that?
I just think solving, like, so I remember in the past, I'd kind of be on that self-improvement, like hamster wheel of always trying to, I don't know, go to the gym, journaling, meditating, working hard, and I'd be doing all these things, but like eventually I'd always have the urges and I'd relapse and I'd feel absolutely terrible. And then I'd lack the energy to really like actually grow and improve in any area of my life really, and relationships would be negatively impacted. Whereas if you just focus on like, okay, let's deal with this addiction and compulsive desires first, it's almost like everything else, like with the gym, or maybe if you wanted to do the self-improvement sort of side of things, they just become so much easier. It's like you just have this peace of mind and clarity, and they're not really even an obstacle anymore. This week I was sorting out some like pretty boring work, to be honest. It's not my favourite thing. It was just like sort of backdating accounts and things and invoices and all this. And like, it was interesting because I had this self-limiting belief really that had probably been created from my time in the addiction of like, oh my God, this is going to be so difficult. I've got to find all these files. I've got to go back into all these old emails and all this sort of stuff. And then I went to the cafe yesterday to crack on with it. And I was just like blown away because it just wasn't hard. And I was like, shit. I just got this clarity and it just wasn't difficult.
It's insane. And I describe it as when you're in that state of full-time addiction and you're just in the cycle of like say no-fap and streaks and all that stuff, doing these things, such as like, if you're on like a business accelerator or a course, right? Or you're on a gym routine, etc. You can still do all that stuff in an addiction. You can be a parent in an addiction.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like you've got a massive anchor on your back while doing it.
Yeah.
And another way of describing it is, I know Mary would like this, it's seeing the world with a negative filter, with a black and white filter.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people in the addiction feel this way. They feel like their life is, it's like a phone camera, but it's like the monochrome filter. Like they don't see color.
Yeah. Grayscale.
And grayscale, yeah.
Life on grayscale.
Yeah. Messed up filter. And yeah, like I can completely resonate with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right, we'll wrap it up here then. Yeah, cheers again, Joe. Honestly, I really, really appreciate you coming in here, just being honest and brave and courageous and sharing your story with people. I'm sure it's going to help people. I'm sure it's going to really resonate and hopefully inspire as well. I'd absolutely love this episode to inspire a few people. So yeah, cheers again, and thanks for anyone listening or watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.